we're just about to get started with figuring out the target audience for Going Under. So here we have my whiteboard. So what you are looking at is the SWOT we made last time for Going Under. Now, I'm gonna go through this because there was no viewers and also the video was deleted for that. SWOT is a very classic framework a lot of people use for figuring out kind of what position their thing that they want to communicate is in at the moment. You want to figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, your threats, and your opportunities. Strengths and weaknesses are things that come from the product itself. That's kind of like an inner thing. Strengths are things that your product itself is good at, and weaknesses are what your product itself is weak at. While threats and opportunities are external forces, things from the outside that can affect you. So for example, a threat is something that could damage your game, which has nothing to do with what the game is in and of itself, but maybe competitors, etc. Opportunities are partnerships, things that happen in the world, news. These are external things. So let's just get into the strengths of Going Under. And what we kind of landed upon here is it's a very relatable game for most people, I think, that have worked in a job they're not too perfectly happy with. Very much a relatable game, and I think with that they get a lot of pathos for the people playing it. Satirical game, not too many of them out there. These are kind of similar. And we have, it's an indie game, which can be good. It gives them a lot of freedom, but it also gives them some, a lot of affection. They're not a big corporation without a face. They're very down-to-earth, small team. Then we have procedurally generated. The game is procedurally generated for many parts of it, which means that it gives a lot of replayability. It is on many platforms, and it can be played in short bursts. So for people who might be in the same situation as the main character of the game, it's very fitting, as you don't have to commit a big time sink every time you sit down to play a session. So that's good. When it comes to the weaknesses, it's made in Unity, so there's going to be a little bit of that Unity jank, bugs, and such things. The game's also kind of short. Also, not so many dungeons in the game, so the varieties of the environment is a little weak in my opinion. It's a kind of niche game. These sort of games doesn't reach out to everybody, and so that's definitely also something to keep in mind. It is procedurally generated. Oh, but that one, Magnus, that was also in the strengths. Why is it in the weaknesses? Well, some people don't like that. Plus, it does hurt you a little bit when it comes to streamers, for example. A lot of speedrunners do streaming. Streaming is a great way to reaching out to video game audiences. Yeah, if it's procedurally generated, it might scare off some speedrunners because it immediately becomes an element. So we talked about the strengths and weaknesses. Those are the inner things. Let's talk about the external things. Threats is the first one here. Substitutes are other things that could take the time that should have gone to your experience. Live streams. This is a game with a heavy focus on humor, which means that if you've heard a lot of the jokes already, you might be less inclined to actually go out and buy the game yourself. Then we have game 2, their next game. That could actually hurt the original one, because now everyone's playing the next one. Then you have Team 17, which is their previous publisher. They've split up with them. They had an internal, it wasn't very internal. It wasn't Twitter. Twitter fights are not internal fights. They had a disagreement on Twitter, in business too, I guess, regarding NFTs and practices around that, which led to them basically parting ways. They probably sounded like there was more things in the past as well. Maybe they weren't too happy with the deal they got, and I guess that makes sense. And then finally we have opportunities, which are more fun. These ones are things that could be positive for you. So we saw again game 2, that was also on the threats list, but it's also an opportunity. You could use the launch of the next game to garner attention around the first. Live streams, again, can be a positive. Reaching out to creators for builds, etc. I see. Okay, so what I meant here is like building a character. So sure, maybe a weakness to the game that's procedurally generated, so there's less of an incentive for speedrunners to play the game. However, there is a lot of cool ways the game predicts what kind of abilities you would like for your characters while playing the game. In the game, you pick up certain abilities during your runs. You could do a lot of cool videos on picking up certain sets of items and building your character, doing something on that. Untraditional target audience, again, people that they haven't really reached out to before. That's an opportunity as well. Mobile version, I think, is big. This game could definitely be played on mobile. I don't see a reason. Like, the control scheme is fairly simple. The aesthetic and style and everything easily fit on a phone. An NFT I added mainly because they don't like those, and they also make fun of that in the game, at least in terms of crypto. And because that's, you know, in the wind nowadays, that's opportunity to do something on that, to kind of like feel like, yeah, we told you so, you know, we made fun of this 2 years before you all. So that's an opportunity as well. That gives us a bit of a better idea of their SWOT model here. Now, last time we left off here, we were going to get into the Paslawski model. Now, this is a model where we do a mind map on 3 things that are similar but different, and try to recognize what they have in common that make them successful within the topic that they're all related to. But the ones I did end up on was indeed Bo Burnham's Inside, again the comedy show, Agretsko, I think that's a fitting one as well, and Soft City, which is a illustrated book by Harrington Pushwagner, a Norwegian artist. Alright, let's make a circle, and we call this what's his name again? Burnham. What I'm writing down now is just keywords that I think of when I think about his show. So if you think of any keywords, any things that if you've watched Bo Burnham's Inside, again, highly recommend it, first and foremost. If you haven't watched it, that's something you have on your to-do list. If you have watched it, throw out any keywords that you think of regarding that show in the comment section. I'm gonna start with the ones I added first, which was depressing. Yay. Then we have, related to that, bleak. It does show us a very bleak version of reality. Criticism of internet culture. That is also something he does. Criticism of stereotypes, or makes fun of stereotypes is better. And speaking of that, we can add to, it is funny, like it's bleak, but it's also funny. There's a lot of plot twists in it. Unusual presentation format. High production with few tools. I mean, few tools is an understatement. He does have quite a few tools. Famous, I just said, you know, he is well known within his communities. Famous for being funny, so I'll just add it here. Although it's not always so funny to be famous, I guess. And speaking of, I'll add to the section over here. To bleak and depressing, we have mental health. Next up, we have that it is relatable. Clear messaging, for sure. Visually impressive. A lot of song. To me, it was personally a little bit too much singing. Like, I can enjoy a funny song, but like, it was a lot of songs. Might just be his main thing, though. I haven't seen any of his other work. Then we have generational disparity. Guess we're heading over to the bleak and depressing side. Insecurity. Then we have raw. We have closer connection with the creator. Yeah, I felt like I got a better idea of who this person is. Now let's move on to the next part. This was all the notes I had on Bo Burnham's Inside. This is my mind map on his thing. I'm gonna leave that one for now, but let's just get up close here first. Is there anything else that you would like to see on this mind map? Or any other notes, any other epiphanies that you have around this one? Then let me know now, and we'll add it. And if not, we're gonna move on. The other one I had written down here was Agretsko. For those of you who know that one, that is an animated show in Japan about a red panda who is very frustrated with her daily life and work environment. And the first thing I added on this one was funny. It is funny. It is animated. And the characters are animals. Let's see, ironic everyday life. Yeah, I can see that. And modern life satire. Office culture. The majority of the show takes place in the company that the main character works at. We have being an adult. It does have some growing up themes as well. Then we have the female perspective. Our main character is female after all. Raw in a way. I mean, yeah, in its Japanesey way, it's kind of raw. Breaking taboos. Japan. Yup, that is its own thing. Clear message for sure. Makes you think. And we have stereotypes. Kind of fits with animals because they're making fun of humans by using animals as a conduit. Death metal, which it is indeed related to. We have aggression, but actually added to office culture. And then we have fed up with the system. Alright, that is my mind map on Agretsuko. Now let's pop this in a box here as well, shall we? Next up, we need to do our last one here. And that is going to be Soft City. Let's zoom in and let's do a thing here. So his works are really colorful and interesting. I think actually for good measure we should probably show off what that looks like. I feel like that's the one I have least expectation any of you to know. You know, just in case. I'm making a big assumption just thinking that you all know Agretsuko or inside. So let's just start with this is the guy, the hairy man. He did a thing where he did a whole comedy show fully produced in his one room, and it's very well done with a lot of lighting and effects and musical things that he has himself, poking fun of everything from live streamers to hikikomoris like himself. Then we have Agretsuko. This is his panda right here, who works an office job during the day, and at night when she had too much with her company, she goes to karaoke and sings death metal to get out her frustrations. That is what this show is all about. And there's several seasons with different topics for each one. Yeah. And then finally we have Soft City. Push Wagner. This is the book cover on the one that you can buy on Amazon. See, this is like a giant city. And here you see all the cars driving in the street. See, it's very mesmerizing artworks. These are the original ones. There are newer versions which are very colorful, and they also look very fascinating. When you add the color to it, it adds an extra dimension to the aesthetic. Zoom out a little bit, and then let's add my notes. So the first thing I've added on this one was uncanny. It's quite uncomfortable. A lot of the imagery, it's like you recognize it, but it's twisted, and so it gets that uncanny valley vibe. Dystopian. It has a clear message for sure. Very detailed, and it's colorful. In the colored version, of course. Anti-establishment. Again, it also pokes fun of society and how it is kind of structured. Mysterious. Kind of add that to the uncanny. But it's also mysterious because this work was actually lost for like many years. It was just not available until it was derived and presented for the world. Makes you think, sure. Unusual perspective. Machine-like. Pleasure and discomfort at once. So yeah, it's pleasing to watch, very colorful and pretty and mesmerizing, but it's also uncomfortable what you are seeing. So you often see in animated things like The Promised Neverland is a good example. Very pretty, beautiful artwork, cutesy characters, but then There's a dark secret that's very, very, very uncomfortable. Familiar in an uncomfortable way. Honestly, that just is uncanny. So I feel like we can remove that. Mesmerizing, yes. Infinity, totality, and totalitarian. And that's all my notes for this one here as well. So now what we have here is that we have three wonderful things with their respective mind maps here. So what we're looking for now that we have all these ones on top of each other, is patterns in these ones that kind of repeat. They're similar in some senses, but they're also very different. So is there anything that repeats in these ones? Looking at it from a first glance here, let's get a different color marker. Ones that kind of like capture my attention here, at least on my end, is the bleak and depressing part. If we look at Bo Burnham's inside here, you will notice on the other two here, fed up with the system, aggression. So like there's clearly like similarities there in terms of like this dissatisfaction with something. Softed here as well, again, totalitarian, machine-like, dystopian. These are things that kind of repeat in these three things. So I'll add that down here. They're not exactly the same word, but they're similar. So colorful, detailed, unusual perspective. These kind of all feel like they're touching on the art. For Agretzko, what do we have? We don't have anything specifically noting it. I will say it is very colorful, but since I didn't really note it down, I guess that's not what stuck with me after watching that show. But the art and animation is really, really well done. But since again I didn't note that down, it's not necessarily what I'm thinking about when I think of it. In Bo Burnham's inside, we have visually impressive, high production, few tools. Alright, so those two seem to have that in common. Just said animated. Yeah. I feel like that's not enough to touch upon it. Makes fun of stereotypes, criticism of internet culture, relatable. Effects on the human mind is kind of alluded to in all of these. And let's see if there's anything else to pull out of this. Makes you think is in all of them. And clear message is in all of them. And I will add, they're all a little funny. They're all visually impressive. Alright, so here we have a pretty interesting list. Let's zoom in on that, shall we? So, dissatisfaction with something. It's relatable to modern life. It is a clear aesthetic. It talks about effects on the human mind. It makes you think with a clear message. It's funny and visually impressive. So that is sort of what we're getting out of all of these. Of all these three things, they all have this in common. And that's interesting because one of them is a TV series, animated TV series, illustrated book and movie, and a live action movie. And they're all so different. So, but they all seem to have these things in common when it comes to being anti-establishment in some sense or form. So these are things criticizing society. That's kind of why I picked these in the first place. And then all these other things are just kind of added on that afterwards. Ones are kind of connected. And so now we have three things instead. So how can we kind of create a sentence out of these ones? Funny, visually impressive, and clear aesthetic. Although, see, that's the difference though. While all of these ones have they have a clear message, they don't have any call to action. There's nothing in these that say you have to go out and do this. It's all just alluding to you making up your own mind on the situations on display. So that's different. There's no agenda. I don't feel like they told me to do it. Now go do this. It's different from, like, say, Avatar, not the animated series, but the animated movie, the 3D one, where it's like afterwards you feel like, oh, I should go out and save the environment. It's more like something is wrong, and I kind of know why, but I don't really know how to fix it. Or I have my own opinions on what is wrong based on what I just experienced, is what I'm getting from this. I'm pretty happy with these three. I think actually this gives us a good idea of what these things actually have in common. Both Agretzko, Bo Burnham's Inside, and Harold Push Wagner's Soft City all have these three things in common, and these are potentially things that made them succeed. Displays societal issues in an ironic way. Yes. Has high quality art direction. Yes. Facilitates for you to take a stand in the topic presented. Yes. You know, clear direction on the art, but especially in game, they do a lot with a little. As you can see right here, it's very, very clear aesthetic. What they're going for. Facilitates for you to take a standpoint in said topic. I feel like they're a little more pushy in what you should think. I don't feel like they facilitate as much for you to make up your own mind as much as they're pushing you to think what they think. So it's not 100% there. But the game seemed to tick most of the boxes. And here is why I wanted to do this model in the first place. This is kind of what I was curious about. Because that means that this game has similar DNA to some of these other very popular works of art that all have clear target audiences, and maybe we can borrow something from that. Bo Burnham's Inside took the internet by storm, so that definitely has the internet culture part down. Also, again, relatability, very much so during the pandemic. It was kind of like, especially a lot of those songs became, you know, staples all over the world for representing the situation we're all in. We also have information on Agretzko as well. Again, here too, you have it's very like young adult sort of thing. People who are, you know, in a similar situation to the main character, Agretzko, you know, pretty fresh in her job, just kind of started out. And again, that's a Japanese show, which means that, but again, that also transcended countries, thanks to, again, it being available on Netflix. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well. And then Push Wagner is also in the art scene. So yeah, we're getting a very left-wing vibe here. For sure. That's definitely something that we're seeing here. I would like to pin down the target audience 100%. But there's a few things I would like to know. I'm getting a bit tired, and also my partner's coming home soon, so I gotta make dinner. So I will have to finish up here very shortly. But I just did want to recap a little bit before we end the stream. What is it that we need to know before we can pin down the audience? Do we have all the facts now, or do we need something else? We do know what attracts people to experiences that are like this, and the game seemed to contain a lot of these. So what I'm thinking is that we try to reach some of the same people that enjoy these other things. And while Bo Burnham's Inside definitely captured a lot of people who play video games and are online and internet culture, etc. I'm sure, and also Agretzko, you know, anime, also connected to video games and such, but also the art scene. There's actually a lot of people who don't play games, and I feel like there too is a lot to grab from. There's also a lot of people who are online, and everyone's online, who just don't play that much video games, or are not as exposed to it. They might mainly play on their phone or something like this, or they might have access to it, but they don't, you know, play as much. They don't explore the niches and fringes of the gaming sphere. This is a millennial's nightmare, and at first I was thinking like millennials like myself who've experienced toxic work culture, it might be very good for people like them to experience this, because again, it kind of like it validates your feelings. But I also think, and this is something they're hitting on already with their TikTok, they're big on TikTok. They have 1 million likes, over 1 million likes. They have many thousand followers, like 50,000 or something like that, like a lot. And so it makes me think that the Generation Z group of like people who don't want to enter jobs like this, people who see this and like they see the flaws in it, and they will avoid it, will also enjoy this. And so, as like a warning, the Greta Thunberg gang. Less so the environmentalists though, because it really doesn't feel like an environmentalist game, but definitely like a politically active youth, I feel, is a great fit for this game. I think we're onto something. I want to pin this down a little harder, but I think we have the information we need. Now the only thing I'm wondering is, I would like to figure out how open this kind of person is to playing a video game, especially on, say, on the Switch, on the PlayStation. Like, where is their preferred platform? Where do we reach out to them? How do we, what platform do we present as the option to play it on? I think making a mobile version of this game might be like our gold mine from what I'm kind of getting from this, honestly. Alright, so I would like to know a little bit more about Gen Z's gaming habits. So yeah, that is all the times. That's next time you can see my face. Again, tomorrow we're pinning down 100% the target audience. We have a very clear ideas of the direction we're going with that. From there on, we are moving on to strategy, and I'm super excited for this. That's my favorite. I can't decide whether that's my favorite part of the process or the idea phase, or the doing phase, man. There's a lot of fun coming up, so definitely stay tuned. Keep a lookout on the YouTube videos coming out as well, with cut versions of the stream. And with that said, have a wonderful rest of your day or night or whatever, and I hope to see you here next time. Thank you so much for watching. Good night or day. Why do I even say